our wide receivers here today. So this room, a lot more, a deeper talent pool for the wide receivers heading into this year than our first two shows of our top 10 list here, man. Honorable mentions. I mean, I'm going to run through a couple for you, but you might even have some of these guys at your 9 or 10 spot. Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen. Spoiler alert, I have Mike Evans as an honorable mention, so he did not crack my top 10. A little bit has to factor in with quarterback play this year. I know that's not fair to do to a top 10 list, but when I'm predicting, production this year, it does take a little bit of a factor here, man. But I'll let you go this week because I believe I started last week with the running backs. Who is your number 10 wide receiver on your list?
Yeah, so down around 9 and 10 is where it starts to get really foggy. I think everybody above 9 and 10 for me are clear consensus top of the line wide receivers. Now, then I guess you could say there's a second. Let me try to break this down right now while we're on here because I have basically top 4 is one tier. Okay. Then I have 5 through 7/8 second tier, and then I have my third tier, which is like 9 through like freaking 20, right? So like that just to give a reference of what I'm looking at here as a whole. But
that's fair.
Number 10 for me is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Detroit Lions. He was 9th in targets last year, 11th in yards. A lot of the reason that I picked Amon-Ra over Smitty, who you mentioned, he's not in my top 10 here, just to give a precursor. Nonetheless, not hating on Smitty. And there's part of me to just be clear about Smitty as an honorable mention. Even Jalen Waddle's in this conversation. He didn't make my top 10. These guys may be more talented. They may be up to the same talent level. It's just a matter of projecting where they're going to be next year. But I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jameson Williams obviously going to be suspended part of the season. But along with that, he had a great season connecting with Jared Goff last year. And he's the number one option there by far. There's no better option on that offense than Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think he only started to show a little glimpse of the stardom that he's going to find in the NFL. I think he's going to kind of take off even further next year and kind of staple himself in as a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. I think he was arguably top 10 last year, but I think he staples himself in as top 10 this upcoming season with the Lions, man.
So it's a great pick. It's a great name. Obviously, he's a guy that I do have in my honorable mentions. I just didn't, list him throughout the couple guys that I did list. But it's a good pick right there, number 10. And I do agree with you. For me, 1 through 7 are solidified. And then 8 to 10 plus honorable mentions, I feel like you could kind of go wherever. At number 10, I'm going to go with a man who just signed with his team about a week ago, and that is DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not sure if he's in your honorable mentions or if you're going to have him higher in your list.
He is an honorable mention for me.
So it does feel like he's just getting casted out by a lot of people right now. And obviously the production hasn't really been there the last 2 years. He over, suspension and injuries. He's only played 19 games the last 2 years, but last year he played 9 games, over 700 yards. The year before that, he only played 10 games, but scored 8 touchdowns. Right. So I do think that the production level when he's on the field is still there for DeAndre Hopkins and at a high level. The first practice of training camp that he reported to with Tennessee, making a ridiculous contested catch, high pointing the ball. I still think he's explosive. I still think he has maybe the best hands in the National Football League. Can he stay on the field? That is the big question. But if so, I mean, I don't have any doubt that he's going to be a focal point. Obviously, when you're talking about Ryan Tannehill and a run-heavy offense with Derrick Henry, that can factor into this. But do not be surprised if DeAndre Hopkins is back over 1,000 yards again this year.
Yeah, the Titans are interesting, man. And D-Hop's an interesting pick here. Mind you, I have him as an honorable mention myself. He probably would have came in around 12, 13, possibly. Maybe even 11, right? He might be the first one outside of the top 10 for me. It's interesting with the Titans, though, right? They trade A.J. Brown, who, depending on your list, he's going to be in the top 10 here of this list. You go out and you end up, going a season without A.J. Brown. Then you go out and sign D-Hop basically a season later after you traded A.J. Brown away. So it's almost like they feel like they made a mistake there. And so they try to double down and go get something that's close to as good or in their prime. D-Hop's still a top quality receiver. Ryan Tannehill, that situation does worry me. In Tennessee, I thought that
I
was a
agree.
risk, him taking that contract in Tennessee. As far as risk, as far as being successful, starting to produce at the level we're used to, and ultimately having a chance to win. I thought it was a risk for DeAndre Hopkins, but AJ Brown did prosper in that offense. He did fool people into thinking that Ryan Tannehill could be an MVP candidate at one point 2 seasons ago. So
Yeah.
there is
It's
room
it's
to work as a
interesting.
receiver in that offense.
It's always interesting when you go out and get a quarterback who people question or who has underachieved, and you give him a true number one wide receiver.
Exactly.
I mean, I look at last year and we all questioned the production that DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett would have from a fantasy perspective to top 10 list. And with Geno Smith, and Geno Smith makes a Pro Bowl and has his best year, and those two didn't take a step back, right? So Jalen Hurts, you give him AJ Brown, look where it took him, right? Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. So again, I don't mean that Ryan Tannehill can be talked about in the lengths of those quarterbacks and what it'll do for him. What I mean is, from DeAndre Hopkins' point of view, I think Tannehill is serviceable enough to utilize that number one option where Hopkins can have a successful season.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair way to put it, and that's something that I would agree with there. Number one wide receivers make a huge difference in the offense. We've seen that firsthand. Number 9 for me is going to be Scary Terry McLaurin from the Washington Commanders. He was top 10 in yards last season. The rest of his stats from last year weren't super blow you off the screen, incredible numbers, but they were top 10 numbers, in my opinion, playing with the Commanders in an offense that is beyond unstable at the quarterback position. This is a guy the last few seasons that's been able to produce. He's been able to get up over 1,000 yards each season, even with the questionable quarterback play that is on this roster, from the likes of Taylor Heineke all the way down to Sam Howell last year. You had a dismal performance from Carson Wentz when he was in the game last year for the Commanders. So just that uncertainty, but still McLaurin's ability to prosper, still his ability to get open in that offense, find holes even through double teams, right? We had to watch this dude on Monday Night Football torch the Eagles. He torched Darius Slay on Monday Night Football, and they move him all around the field. They put him in the slot. They put him on the outside. He can beat you outside. He can beat you through the middle. He does just about it all, and I have a very weird feeling that if he had a solid quarterback, say a Jalen Hurts, if you put him with a Jalen Hurts or any, I shouldn't say that's not fair. He's a top 5 quarterback.
Right.
Put him with any top 10 quarterback,
Cousins,
top 15 quarterback. Right. He's going to have even better numbers, man, and maybe even be higher up on this list. So just wanted to give some credit to Scary Terry. Even though he's on the Commanders, he is one of my more likable receivers in the NFL. He just works hard and kind of grinds it out. So Scary Terry at number 9 for me, man.
Dude, I agree with you. I think he's one of the most underrated and undervalued names. He just flies under the radar for a lot of people. And out of all the wide receiver ones we can talk about, whether they're honorable mentions or in this top 10 list, he definitely has the most unfair treatment when it comes to quarterback play and help and dysfunctional franchise. And the Commanders are a mess. We know that. They're going through an ownership change right now. There's a petition for them to go through another name change. All the quarterbacks from Taylor Heineke to Carson Wentz to whatever he's had going on there recently. And like you said, he still finds ways to score. He still finds ways to put up over 1,000 yards, right, per season. Unfortunately, he did make my honorable mentions list. This is what I'm saying, dude. This wide receiver crop is so deep and so talented because my first guy you had as an honorable mention, and your first two guys are honorable mentions for me. At number 9, touchy topic. We hate him right now as Eagles fans. You question whether it's not really being utilized as a receiver. I'm going to throw Deebo Samuel on this list at number 9 just to give him some respect and some leadway coming into this year. We're talking about poor quarterback play from last year. And I mean, look what the San Francisco 49ers had to endure. And I'm not talking about the NFC Championship specifically. I'm just talking about all year long between the Trey Lance issue, Brock Purdy, everything that they had going on. You go back to 2 years ago, dude, Deebo Samuel on only 77 receptions put up over 1,400 yards. He had over 630 yards last year, only 2 receiving touchdowns. I get it. He only caught 56 balls. I believed he was a little banged up as well last year throughout the season. Maybe he didn't miss a bunch of time. I could be wrong here, but let's see. How many games did he play? Well, it's not showing me, but you get the point. The reason I have Deebo Samuel on this list is when I just think about pure wide receiver and football player and what he can do on a field, his versatility. Think about why we have Christian McCaffrey so high on our running back list that we talked about last year. Because of his versatility, and he's an ultimate weapon that you can use all over the field, running and in the passing attack. Well, Deebo Samuel's just on the flip side of Christian McCaffrey. He's a wide receiver they line up in the backfield and hand the ball off to. He's got great hands. He's an explosive threat. He'll run you over. I know he's on my bad side right now, but as a wide receiver, he does come in at number 9.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Deebo Samuel didn't come to mind for me when I was making this list.
Interesting.
And mind you, it's not because of his talent. I think it is just because how far down my list. Like everything that
I feel you.
Everything that I liked about Deebo Samuel as a wide receiver and as a weapon in the NFL, it's kind of been soured by his personality. Like it doesn't. His personality of like being a punk does not fit the way that he plays football, if that makes sense. So I think I've been turned off by him. But yeah, I would put him in this like 8 to 10 range that we've been talking about here. I would have to say that even though I didn't think about him, he would be considered an honorable mention, a top 15, top 4.
Hanging up on an interview after being asked a question about his
comment. Man. I don't like the sour attitude, but to your point, we got to look besides that. Nonetheless, I still got a lot of respect for Deebo Samuel as a football player and what he is capable of doing on the football field. With some stable QB play, who knows what he'll be able to do in that San Fran offense. Also with CMC in the backfield to take some of that attention off. So he's again definitely
another guy dependent on their QB situation, right?
Yeah. So hopefully, apparently Brock Purdy is on pace to start week 1. So hopefully if that's their guy, and they can move forward and build that chemistry, right? But yeah, is it Trey Lance? Like they're in a weird spot, but nonetheless, I feel you on Deebo Samuel. He did not make my list. Number 8 for me is going to be Cowboys wide receiver 1, CeeDee Lamb. This is kind of what I was talking about, where we get to 8 and it kind of feels like this for sure belongs. This is your 8 right here. CeeDee Lamb, 4th in targets, 5th in receptions, 6th in receiving yards, 6th in touchdowns on the season. So by all means, he's a top 10 wide receiver by all metrics. And he is the lone wide receiver as far as you look at his next roadmate. Now, Brandon Cooks is a little bit of an upgrade from last year, right? But nonetheless, he is still that dominant number 1 wide receiver there in Dallas. And we know they like to throw the ball a lot. So I'm sure that he's going to put up some good numbers this year. And he's a talented guy. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I didn't want CeeDee Lamb in that draft, right? I wanted CeeDee Lamb in that draft. I thought he was going to be the best wide receiver in that draft. So I'm not going to sit here and act like he doesn't have all the talent in the world. I don't like the dude on the Cowboys.
Right. I mean, Dak Prescott was both on our top 10 quarter. Like this is not what we're here to do. Is just put down the Cowboys players, but he does listen. I have him at number 8 as well. I do agree with you. I think when you get to that mark right there, that's where you solidified the rest of your list. Now, I'm sure we're not going to have the same order, but I do know we're going to have the same rest of the wide receivers from here on out. The only thing I'll say that CeeDee Lamb needs to continue to work on are these puppies right here. He's got a little bit of a drop in this drop.
Not everything else,
especially when he gets downfield. So he does have everything else, like you said. I mean, the numbers are there since he came in the league. His rookie year, he just had under 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, almost 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns. He progressively gets better, more productive, and is Dak's solidified number 1 option. You do know they're going to air the ball out more this year. I've listened to different podcasts from apparently, whoever is it, Schottenheimer, whoever the new play caller is in Dallas is working and pushing Dak to push the ball down the field more so than they have in the past. Look for the deep ball a little bit more, which is where CeeDee Lamb could become even more of a threat over the middle of the field. So I agree with you. He's in my number 8 spot as well.
That's interesting. Deep ball. They went the deep ball, huh?
Yeah, and then you see the training camp video.
I don't know if that's the best idea, but nonetheless, that's their prerogative. Oh, so you got CD at 8 as well. I was sitting here waiting for your next guy, but that was
No, we agree.
I got you. So number 7 for me, man. This one might be a little controversial. It's gonna be Jamar Chase. And the reason I have Jamar Chase, I know it feels low, man, but everybody else in front of Jamar Chase, I feel, has a little bit more longevity to their resume. And by saying that, I not saying that Chase isn't, the one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He's top 7, right? He's coming in at 7 here. And he's one of my favorite ones. He's able to go up and get the ball. He's one of the most talented guys at snatching the ball out of the air. That's something that I love. I love his yards after catch as well. Obviously a little banged up last year, but basically when I'm looking at the rest of these wide receivers, man, I'm looking at the impact that they have. They're all very close as we get down the stretch here, but I can't put him above any of the wide receivers that I have left on this list. So I'm interested to see where you go here. It's hard to find a reason to put Chase down there, but like I said, it's simply based off of longevity and nature of impact. When I describe the guys above him, you'll see what I mean when I say nature of impact, because I get Jamar Chase stepped onto the scene in Cincinnati, made their offense a top-tier offense. But T. Higgins was there. He was their number 1 wide receiver. He is another top 20 type of wide receiver, another honorable mention type of guy. So you'll see what I mean as we go through the rest of the list there.
You might not be able to put Jamar Chase above some of these other guys, but I'm damn sure going to put Jamar Chase above some of these other guys. And it's very interesting you bring that up, because I'll see when we get higher up the list where you have Mr. Jettas, but the longevity ain't there for Jettas either. So it's very interesting that you think the climb might be there, unless he's coming up soon for you. At number 7, I have A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, obviously being an Eagle, makes things a lot easier to put him on this list. And year 1, he stepped on the scene and had a career year, broke records for the Eagles, 88 receptions, a career high, 1,500 receiving yards, almost a career high, 11 receiving touchdowns, tied his career high. He was explosive. That he helped Jalen with his deep ball and down the field. He was in the intermediate. He was in the slant. He was in the screen. He was in every part of this Eagles offensive weaponry and part of their scheme. A.J. Brown is maybe, beside Deebo Samuel, the most physical wide receiver. Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, who we didn't mention. But A.J. Brown's right up there in terms of physicality, his speed, his route running, his hands, everything. He is number 7. I just, for the same reasons, for what you said about Jamar Chase, about not being able to put him above some of these other guys, A.J. Brown has the talent to be above some of these other guys, but I just can't do it yet.
I can get that. The thing with A.J. Brown, and he comes in at number 6 on my list, right above Jamar Chase here. The thing about A.J. Brown is what he came in and what he did to this Eagles offense, and the way he opened this offense up. The way he was able to take over and win games. You look back at that Steelers game, that's just him beating double coverage multiple times in one game, man. That's him opening up the offense with the deep ball. That's him opening up.
Can I make that case for Mr. Jamar Chase?
You can make the case, but was it as high of an effect as A.J. Brown? I don't know. It's arguable. The previous season they go to the Super Bowl.
2 seasons, 2 AFC championships, and a Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah, but I don't know. A.J. Brown, to each their own. I like A.J. Brown's game a little bit more than Jamar Chase. I think he does the same things that Jamar Chase does, except he has a much bigger stature to him, man. And that's ultimately why he comes in ahead of me, on top of him having just a better season last year in general. But nonetheless, it's A.J. Brown's physical nature. You talk about the brutality of him. He brings like that Deebo Samuel after the catch type of ability, but then also has the ability to go up and beat double coverage in the air with his hands. So Just seeing him do it on the biggest stage, maybe I'm a little biased to AJ Brown, but I'm feeling AJ over Jamar Chase. But that's not to say Jamar Chase doesn't take it up a level. We'll see.
Oh, I feel you, man. Listen, I would love by week 3, I could be making the argument that AJ Brown has climbed my list. We know who the rest of the guys are. Like I said, they're all the same guys. So for me, when I look at who's above him, it's like he's great, but did he surpass him yet? And you'll see what I mean by that.
Yeah. Who you got at number 6?
Oh, you're up for 6.
Oh, I had AJ Brown.
Oh.
Yeah, AJ Brown was my number 6.
I got you. I thought you were just hitting me with a rebuttal for him at 7. I got you.
No. Number 6.
At number 6, this is the one guy out of the rest that I would consider putting him above. But then I think about the route running and the impact he's had and the hands. I have Stephon Diggs at number 6. I don't know how to. Stephon Diggs is a very weird wide receiver to me. Like in terms of because I look at who's ahead of him with the speed and the size and everything. And then I look at behind him with AJ Brown and Debo and their athleticism and speed and everything. But Stephon Diggs is what? How tall is Stephon Diggs? Let's see. I think he's like 6'1", 6'2". So like he's not the fastest receiver. He's not the biggest receiver. He's not the strongest receiver. But he's just great at everything, dude. And look at his tenure since he's gotten to Buffalo. He hasn't had a season with under 103 receptions. Last year, he had 108. Double-digit touchdowns. He had a career-high 11 touchdowns last year. Almost over 1,400 receiving yards, which is second in his career. Averaged over 13 yards per reception. He's one of the best route runners in the league. He's some of the best hands in the league. And he's Josh Allen's premier number 1 target. I have Stephon Diggs at 6, but like he's just – do you get what I mean by weird? Like he's not faster than X, Y, and Z ahead of him. He's not stronger than X, Y, and Z behind him, but he just does everything at a dominant level.
Yeah, no, I definitely get you. And Diggs actually comes in at number 5 for me. So just to kind of take him off the list here. I was going hard between AJ and Stephon Diggs, honestly, because if you look at the numbers, depending how you view them, you could argue that AJ Brown had better numbers than Stephon Diggs last year. Now, obviously, they matched on touchdowns. They just about matched on yards, but AJ Brown did it with much less catches. Now, that doesn't speak to targets. He only had, I believe, like 9 less targets than him, but he had 20 less receptions. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, right? 17 yards per catch. He ends up getting more yards than him on the season. But nonetheless, I ended up giving the nod to Stephon Diggs for nonetheless doing it longer. And he went to Buffalo first. He's kept that steady. He even did it in Minnesota. He was wide receiver 1 there as well. Ended up taking over Adam Thielen at one point. But going to Buffalo, that impact that he had with Josh Allen, basically turning him into a perennial MVP candidate. It just speaks to wide receiver 1 types of things, right? The impact on an offense and his ability to get open and find spots in the open holes in the defense. I think that's the part that just gets kind of undershadowed by Diggs. He's, like you said, he's not going to blow you away after the catch. He's not going to blow you away going up and getting the ball. Right. He's got great hands. Don't get me wrong. But it's really his route running and his IQ.
What you just said describes what my mind was thinking perfectly.
Yeah,
when describing him like
exactly. He's a technician. That's what Stephon Diggs is. Whereas AJ Brown, I don't know, like he's not a technician, but is he? Like he almost is, man. Like he's just also a bruiser. So I don't know, man. AJ Brown is.
That was my point about the size and the. That was my point about the size and the speed, right? Because with Stephon Diggs, you notice it more with him. AJ Brown, even if he is a technician, even if his footwork and his hand, and his work at the line of scrimmage to get off is perfect.
Yeah,
it almost takes a back seat because you look at him and you go, wow, right? So Diggs, that's like you look at him and you go, okay, that's what he does and excels at is his route running and his footwork and getting everything like that. So I agree with you. I have him at 6, you have him at 5. At number 5, I have a guy who had injuries last year, who suffered from bad quarterback play and injuries last year, and that is Mr. Cooper Kupp. I know you're going to have him up there. I think he's a solidified top 5 wide receiver. Yeah. You want to talk about a technician and a route runner, and a combination of everything is what Cooper Kupp provides for the LA Rams. Obviously almost broke Megatron's record 2 years ago, the year that they won the Super Bowl. But correct me, he was the Super Bowl MVP, correct?
I can't confirm.
I forget.
I have no clue if he
I
won
forget if he
or if
was,
Matthew
but he may
Stafford.
have been Super Bowl MVP. Regardless, last year 75 receptions, over 800 yards, still had 6 touchdowns, average double-digit yards per catch.
He was the MVP.
Yeah. So he does everything for the LA Rams. And getting Matthew Stafford back is why I think he has the potential to be in top 3 again.
Yeah, no, I agree with you here. I actually have Cooper Kupp at number 4 for me. Only played 9 games last year. I imagine they had shut him down at a certain point just because of how bad that team was playing.
Wait, can you say that again?
Huh?
9 games?
Yeah, 9 games last year, 812 yards, 6 touchdowns. Still put up great numbers.
Dude, I knew he was hurt last year. I didn't know he only played half the season.
Yeah, he only played half the season. Caught 75 out of 98 targets, though, so he was off to his normal production, his normal behavior, if that's the way you want to put it. And I agree. If you get Matthew Stafford back healthy, you get this Rams team just a little bit more organized under Sean McVay this season. Don't expect them to be as bad after the Super Bowl hangover they had last year. Do I expect them to be world beaters this year? No, I don't expect them to be that high-flying, great offense. But I do still expect a lot of targets for Cooper Kupp and a lot of production for this guy. Like you mentioned, he's a technician. You talk about route running, he's at the top of that class. So I don't expect that to drop off. And I expect him to actually come out a little bit more hungry this season after missing most of last year as well. So I'm sure he's going to be eager to get back to it. He comes in at number 4 for me.
All right. At number 4, I have Tyreek Hill. And he's interesting to me, man, because was it last year we were doing this list and we had him? Remember, people were arguing that he wasn't top 5.
Yeah,
not top 5. So he moves on from Patrick Mahomes and the Super Bowls and arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and he goes and plays with Tua, and then not just Tua, a bunch of backups. And what does he do? Career high in receptions, 119. Career high in yards, over 1,700. 7 touchdowns. He averaged 14.5 yards per catch. You want to talk about ultimate weapon on a football field? It's Tyreek Hill, because he's not just the speed. He's not just the quickness. He's not just the athleticism. His footwork, his hands, his route running, his technique, everything is top tier, top level when it comes to Tyreek Hill. You could make an argument with his big playability that he's definitely in the top 3 for me. But I just had to give the other 3 the nod over him.
Gotcha. Yeah, Tyreek Hill. Interesting. He's a little bit further up on my list, but number 3 for me is going to be Devontae Adams. So comes in, obviously, he's probably been the most long-standing next to guys like Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, those type of guys. But he kept the production even through a dismal Las Vegas season. Still managed to I believe he led the league. Yes, led the league in receiving touchdowns, 3rd in receiving yards, 9th in receptions, 2nd in targets, 15.2 yards per catch, 493 yards after the catch. I mean, he does it all. He's the prototypical wide receiver, I would say, that you would want. That big, tall frame, athletic. He still has the speed to go with it. He kind of moves gracefully, if that makes sense, on the football field. He's just very smooth as far as catching the ball, going up and getting the ball, running his routes. He just makes the game look easy, if that makes sense. And that was with a season in turmoil in that Las Vegas offense. Josh McDaniels' first season, his first season with Las Vegas. Obviously, Derek Carr in and out of the lineup, whatever the hell they were doing with him. He was able to put up over 200 receiving yards with Jared Stidham, for God's sakes. Like, the guy just catches the football. All he needs is somebody to throw it up for him. And that's why he comes in at number 3 on my list, man.
Interesting, man. At number 3, here is your boy. I have Jamar Chase. And I hear everything you said, and I look at guys like A.J. Brown, like Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, and I understand why you're hesitant to put him up there, especially when he's only played 2 years in the league. But I look at his numbers, and his first 2 years, he comes in and the Bengals go, and obviously Joe Burrow got hurt his rookie year, but they weren't going anywhere. He comes in and elevates. You talk about AJ Brown elevating the Eagles offense. He essentially did the same thing just in year one, getting them to a Super Bowl and almost winning a Super Bowl. They beat Patrick Mahomes. He puts up almost 1,500 yards, 13 touchdowns his rookie year. He comes back, was a little banged up, a little nicked up last year. More receptions, over 1,000 yards again, 9 touchdowns. He's explosive. His hands are some of the best in the league, and he has an argument to be made for the best route runner in the league as well. He affects winning with this team. I don't know. I hear your argument about T. Higgins, but I can make the same argument for Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown here in Philly. Again, there was a bunch of other wide receivers, not just A.J. Brown here in this list, but in between them. But I do think Jamar Chase is top 3 in the league right now.
Yeah, see, the thing with AJ and Jamar, it's interesting because I look at them and I look at what they've done, and you're right. He has done similar things for Cincinnati. I guess I just look at it like, what does Jamar do that AJ can't in my eyes? And then I look at their frames, and then that's where maybe it's just a preference at that point, but
right.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm trying to be fair here. I get your point. You make great.
Forget AJ Brown. It could be any. We could make the same case with Stephon Diggs, right? You have Stephon Diggs ahead of Jamar Chase. You could say the same thing there. What does he do?
Like, I almost put AJ ahead of Stephon Diggs.
Right,
like that.
Right.
That's where I'm at with AJ. Like, just seeing what he's done in this offense and the numbers that he was able to put up.
I agree with you, man.
In his first season with Jalen Hurts, man, it's interesting. Jamar Chase is an interesting one. Maybe I'll come back to regret that. But as of right now, I just feel like the guys ahead of him that I have a little more stripes. But to be fair to you, that's a good pick in my eyes. I think you can't go wrong with these top 7 in reality. Number 2 for me is going to be Tyreek Hill. Now, Tyreek Hill, he's such an interesting guy, man, because you mentioned the conversations last year. Is he top 5? Is he this? Is he that? I have him sitting here at number 2. Now, obviously, came in number 2 in all important metrics last year, yards, catches, 7 touchdowns, so didn't hit that mark. But nonetheless, what sticks out for me with Tyreek Hill is, like, how do you guard him? Like, how do you guard somebody that moves the way that he moves, as quick as he moves, as small as he is? Just the quickness on top of the just pure raw speed is just immaculate. And it's honestly, man, I don't know if I've ever seen something like it. Like, we've seen like Deshaun Jackson, right, where you see these deep balls where he's running and there's really nobody around him to even contest the catch, let alone, him, having to catch it over someone. There's nobody around him most of the time, which is why I just think when you stick Tyreek Hill in an offense and you say, take the lid off the offense, well, Tyreek Hill is like the definition of taking the lid off the offense. He is he's one of the, maybe 4 or 5 guys in the NFL that has that one punch ability where he can knock you out and score a touchdown 75 yards out in one catch, one play, one possession, right?
Yeah. So you can make the argument he's the scariest weapon. He's the scariest wide receiver to go against.
I think that's why I have him so high here, because I think of just pure fear when you're playing a guy. And mind you, bro, he didn't play healthy most of last season. He had that foot, ankle injury, whatever he was working through the whole season. Tua was going through all these hula hoops with the concussions.
If Tua doesn't get hurt, does Tyreek Hill go for 2,000 plus yards?
Probably, man. Yeah,
if he's not hurt, does he go for 2,000 plus yards?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, why not, man? There's several games where I look back and there was a play where Tyreek Hill had to give up because his ankle gave out or something, right? Like, I remember that several times, but yet you would still see him coming out of games with 200 receiving yards and 10 catches. So, like, this dude, man, he's unguardable, and I think that's why I have him up so high. Maybe from a size standpoint, you like some of these other wide receivers more, and I understand that too. Just having that prototypical frame like a DeAndre Hopkins, that 6 foot plus frame, right? That does make a difference in the NFL. But Tyreek Hill, he's mastered the speed and even the route running, man. I could go on for days about this guy. He's an exciting player to watch.
At number 2, I'm going to make some noise with this one. Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
at number 2 for me, man. I don't even need to explain why. I'm going to let you explain why he's your number 1, and then I'm going to come in with my number 1. Because I understand that he can very well be number 1.
Yeah, and I think this, to your point, goes a little bit against what I was saying about, Jamar Chase and such. But Justin Jefferson, it's like it's in your face. He catches everything. He has multiple games in double-digit catches range. Leads the league in receptions, leads the league in yards, had 8 touchdowns last year, was 4th in yards after catch with 613 yards after catch. He does it all. And, the thing about him coming out of college was that he's a slot receiver. He's this, he's that. He beats guys on the outside. He beats guys through the middle. He's not afraid to get hit. Several game-winning catches last season, right? So he's big in the big moments.
How could you forget the Josh Allen game?
Yeah, that shit is insane.
Whatever.
That shit is insane. But to your point, man, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there is some consensus, because this position, almost more than any other position in the NFL, relies on so many outside factors.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the fact that he's the only receiver in that offense, right? That he gets all the targets.
Right.
But to your point, I do believe Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the NFL, and I do think he's going to reclaim that title this season, even with the likes of Cooper Kupp coming back healthy and some of these other guys improving. I think Justin Jefferson is still going to be a mainstay there at the top.
No, you're 100% right, because with every other position, your quarterback, the ball's in your hands every play. You're a running back, it's getting handed to you.
Yeah.
As a receiver, you have to do your job first. You have to win the battle. You have to get open, create space. Then you rely on another person to get the ball to you, and then you have to do your job again. Yeah. And then some. It's so different than the quarterback and running back position, any defensive position that you're trying to win a battle one-on-one, because you're reliant on someone else getting the ball to you, right?
Yeah.
You said something very interesting at the end of your statement, though. I think he's going to reclaim that spot. And I'm going to tell you that he never claimed it, because Davante Adams is still the best wide receiver in the National Football League. And here's why. Here's why. In order for the champ to fall off, he has to be knocked out. Right? You're not being the champ by decision. It's not happening. So Davante Adams would have to take a step back. DeAndre Hopkins, I think we could agree, last year, 2 years ago, was a consensus top 2 wide receiver in the league, top 3 wide receiver. Yeah. DeAndre Hopkins personally has taken a step back. His production has taken a hit the last year or two. Davante Adams leaves Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, goes to the Las Vegas Raiders, who we know all the issues with the Indianapolis Colts. We know all the issues with the Denver Broncos last year. But the Las Vegas Raiders might have been the most dysfunctional franchise out of all of them, from head coach to quarterback play to the way they lost games, everything about them. Scapegoating blaming the quarterback, right? Jarrett Stidham, injuries. He goes there, 100 receptions, second most career receiving yards, second most career receiving touchdowns, and a career high in yards per catch. That's what he does with Derek Carr, Jarrett Stidham, and a dysfunctional franchise last year when he was our number 1 last year. So until Davante Adams steps aside and hands that title to Justin Jefferson, it's not Justin Jefferson's just yet. Davante Adams is still the number 1 wide receiver in the league. Now we'll have to see. Jimmy G, still a head coach problem. We'll see what Davante Adams looks like this year. We know that Justin Jefferson's going to go for 17 plus 100 yards. Can Davante Adams defend his title for another year? That is TBD.
It depends, man. It depends. I get your point. Because I do believe I had Davante Adams either number 1 or number 2 last year. I think it was actually between Cooper Kupp and Davante Adams last year. In Cooper Kupp, I think you had to give I think I still gave
I had Davante Adams.
I think I still did. Nonetheless, I'm looking at Justin Jefferson's numbers right now, and I'm looking at him compared to Devontae Adams, and I'm looking at just the last 3 years because that's how long Justin Jefferson's been in the league. It comes down to touchdowns, right? Because Justin Jefferson has outgained him the last 3 seasons in a yard standpoint, but from the touchdown standpoint, Devontae Adams has won that battle. So I don't know, man. Justin Jefferson, he's making a claim, dog. I don't know. He was pushing 2,000 yards last year.
I'm semi playing around. Not that I think that Devontae Adams isn't the best wide receiver. I do. I'm joking around about I know that Justin Jefferson, it's a 1A, 1B for me kind of thing. It's not really so much 1-2.
I feel you.
I just if Adams was my number 1 last year and he put up those numbers with that quarterback and that head coach and that franchise, how the hell am I going to knock him down a peg when he had career highs and second, second best in his career in every category with bad quarterback play and a bad franchise after leaving Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
That's why I can't do it yet.
It is fair. I don't know, man. This list was hard, to say the least. It was
hard, but I will say it was by far the most fun I've had putting together one of our top 10 lists for this segment. Dude, you can go.
Look how much we disagreed. I mean, that speaks to how
I'll go a step further. I'll go a step further. Next week, we'll do 11 to 20.